Deconversion is something that we should actively pursue and would be a net gain for society if we could have more and more people leave religion, deconstruct their religion, and not be raised religious. When you think about freedom of speech, for example, one of the biggest things is, well, you don't want to impose upon what anybody can say, or you don't want to be able to tell people what they must say or must not say. Completely agreed. But that only goes so far as we don't protect speech that inhibits our freedoms. We don't protect people to yell fire in a crowded movie theater. And in the same way, Christianity, as the primary religion in the world, is yelling fire in the movie theater. Christianity is telling you to throw away your common sense in favor of a dogmatic religion. And that dogmatic religion isn't just to have your own personal belief, your own vetted personal style of belief, your own spirituality that you meditate on in your own time. No. Christianity professes that it is to go over through all nations and be proclaimed, be witnessed to. It is in essence of Christianity that it take over and destroy every other culture in its wake. And so to be anti-theistic to the major world religions is to be pro-free speech, is to be pro-human liberty. Because these religions and these schools of thought exist to only perpetuate themselves and to crush everything in their wake. And if I had said this a couple years ago, you may have thought I had been speaking in exaggeration, or I am just some estranged leftist who is, espousing crazy things. But as of late, there has been documents pushed by the US government saying anti-Christian rhetoric can be labeled as terrorist speech. So what is that saying except that Christianity is continuing its legacy of complete oppression? And it makes sense from an evolutionary perspective of it as a religion. Because Christianity existed not because of its cohabitability or because of its ability to blend well with other religions. Christianity existed because, like a monopolistic organization buys out other companies or uses legal means to press them out of existence, Christianity had wars for its existence. Christianity has attempted to delete all other religions in its wake, right? And it has, by and large, succeeded. And the other two major world religions, Islam and Hinduism, have done the same. The difference between religion and any other personal way of thought or thinking or preferences or culture is that religion intends to take over other cultures. And this is where you have to be careful when speaking with somebody who is religious or who will vouch for their religion or for their views, in that they will conflate it with culture. Because yes, there is culture within religion, but religion in and of itself is not culture. Religion is an old way of thinking that we have stuck with ourselves, a form of tribalism that we should expel. Frankly, there is no need to have belief systems based on nothing but the belief systems themselves that in effect hurt minority groups, hurt us as a society as a whole, and do things like say your empiricism, your scientific methodology is incorrect because of this religion, or it disregards the voices of those being oppressed by the religion. That's the difference. Of course, I will greatly respect the beauty of an old Catholic or Orthodox church or a mosque or a temple or a tradition or a liturgy, of course. But just like in Japan, you have a largely secular society that still goes to temples, that still goes to shrines, and that still even does prayers and rituals and works with monks. You don't need to have a society where that is forced upon us. Yet modern day Christianity does. And so to that end, it is a moral good thing that you are anti-theist, that you work towards the deconversion of people. Because what you're not doing is stripping them from their religion. As you can see, you can be in a secular society and keep culture and have a rich culture. But you don't need an ancient set of beliefs that impresses upon itself, impresses upon its people itself for its own sake. Again, I'll sound dramatic. I'll sound like I'm being flourishing with my words, but it is a cancer. Just like a cancer cell only exists to make more cancer cells of itself within a host body. Religion does the same. And the adverse effects of religion are so much worse than any religious person would make you think them to be. Someone might say, well, my religion brings me comfort. My religion brings us a sense of community. And so it's good for me. It's good for us in that way. And that's fine. And if that's all it was, then that would be fine. But this is a lie. Whether or not the honest, meaning person intended to, it's a lie. Because Christianity does not just bring a sense of community. It does not just bring a sense of belonging. It brings also a sense of persecution for anybody who dare stands in its way. A sense of exile for anybody who actively stands against it. Right? Christianity will impress itself always that you can't be gay and not be sinning. You can go to any sort of crux with a moral truth you know and press it against Christianity and find that it won't bend. And that's because it is rooted in not logic, but in its own fallacious beliefs. There's nothing wrong with being gay. There's nothing wrong with not having the gender identity you were born with, because they're just your own identities. And how will a Christian respond to that? Will the Christian eventually admit their mistake? Will the Christian eventually see, oh yes, you know what, all of the scientific and psychological and ethical reasoning and evidence is clear, and Christianity was wrong up until this point? No. Christianity will fight until the bitter end that it is a sin to act in a gay way, whatever that may mean. And you may have the most, diet, vanilla version of that where it tries to, cater it into a way that is digestible easily. Or you might have the most vitriolic version of that where you have some fundy pastor screaming, sodomy from the bottom of their lungs with just hatred and vile looks in their eyes. But they're all shielding the same core of a religion, of something that the world will be better without. So when I hear, well, religion brings community, religion brings, me a sense of belonging. So I don't think saying, the world will be better without religion, or saying it's good to deconvert people, is a step too far for every sophist. When I hear that, it's like me hearing, well, cancer brings me the sense of community with the cancer survivors group I'm in. Cancer brings all this great, minds together for the cancer research to stop it. So it's too much to say that a world without cancer would be better. No, a world without cancer would be a better world. And in the same way, a world without religion would be a better world. I sincerely believe that. Because to the crux of any argument you get with, there can always be so many different layers to why there is a disagreement, whether it's, a political or a cultural difference or a personal disagreement, whatever the case may be. If you're two reasonable people from any cultures, you should be able to find mutual points to build each other up, to live in a human society where we exist to benefit one another altruistically. But the only real thing I think that stands in the way of that is tribalism, is a tie to a group or any sense of belief that is there for no other reason than the same reason a cancer cell propagates itself. And so the greatest cancer today is religion. Whether it's a sincere believer, if it's a sincere zealot, or if it's just someone who's looking to gain opportunity, using religion as a cudgel for whatever their power trying to gain, it's all poisonous. And so you have to firmly stand and say that religion is poison. Deconversion and deconstruction from religion is good. And it's a benefit to society to be an anti-theist. A world where we're democratically deciding things is a better world than one where everything is decided from the top down. A world where everybody's circumstances is considered is a better world than one where it's not considered and things are laid upon society in, a sweeping motion, right? And that's why to be altruistic, to think of other people, to imagine that you can be born into situations in an unfair way. You may be born into poverty. You may be born into an oppressed group. You may be born into luxury. You may be born into, any sort of fortune. And so wouldn't you want to build a society that accounts for the things that we couldn't account for, that accounts for the fact that we should be continuously developing and trying to help everyone as much as we can, because you can't control the circumstances that anyone was born into. And so as much as you would like to get the most out of society to benefit your own life, wouldn't you want that for anyone else, because you don't know what circumstances you could be from? That sort of reasoning, which I would argue to say is any sane human perspective, right? Any sane moral human would agree with that, the golden rule, right? That you wouldn't want a world that's unfair. You wouldn't want a world that is completely oppressive. You want a world that is altruistic. You want a world that is equitable to people from all different walks of life. And what is the worldview, though, that disagrees with that? The worldview that imposes that there is a world beyond this world, that there is a sort of eternal price to pay for how we exist in this life. And how we exist in this life isn't based on a sort of moral or ethical principle. No, it's based on what team you're on. It's based on what team you supported. In the same way you might, kiss up to your boss in a corporate setting, in your own office, or if you're a student, the same way you might play to your teacher in a way to get their favor, right? People in religious situations have the same power dynamic, except for them, it's not for a job or a school or any sort of temporary setting. For them, it is to the core of their souls, as much as they believe it, right? And if you sincerely believe, and I know for everyone secular watching this, it's really hard to imagine, but if you were once religious, or if you are religious, it is sincerely terrifying to think that the celestial dominator of the universe looks at you in every single facet of your existence and judges you. Then of course you will want to do any and everything that appeals to that, however absurd it may be. And so come now to the year 2025, we know as much as we do about the world and ethics and all of these circumstances that we couldn't have imagined before. Hey, it's not so simple as to say someone was born with a gender, right? But the Bible says to act this way or that. Hey, there's actually scientific proof that the world is at least several billion years old. But the Bible says or suggests this or that. Hey, it's actually not that humans are specifically or specially made. We arise from a series of evolution amongst different generations of species. But the Bible disagrees with that. So all of these things are progress that's inhibited by religion. And so I truly think for much of society, being able to remove religion is the best thing we can do. Being able to stop people from being indoctrinated, raised into religion, is one of the best things that we can do. I equate it to the work that was done in Germany after the Third Reich ended, right after World War II ended. Because if Germany had just kept its ways and had kept Nazi party and didn't stop any sort of thing like that, then we wouldn't have moved to the Germany we have today. A country with as many problems as any other country, but just like that, a country just like any other country. You need to get rid of the viewpoints and the frameworks that exist only to hurt all other viewpoints, right? That's why we have, like I said in the beginning of this video, limits to our speech. Not because free speech, allowing all types of speech, literally all types of speech, even those that want to extinguish other types of speech, is not free speech. You have to stop those types of free speech, because they exist to stop free speech. And religion is that kind of speech.